I'm going to teach adaptations. I'm going to teach cultural rewritings. Cultural rewritings across several media, across several platforms, which means rewriting stories in ways that nowadays resonate with us, with you. If in the 19th century the novel was a major way of telling stories, now we still go back to the novels of the 19th century, but we tell them differently. And this is what we're going to discuss. We're going to look at the way novels or plays or operas or non-fictional texts or already adapted texts, novels that had been adapted in movies and now have turned into graphic novels or into games. All this, how they are adapted, rewritten, recoded. What is particularly interesting in this analysis of a kind of a transmedia process is that we're trying to get a glimpse into a major shift of paradigm that we're all experiencing. A shift from the culture based upon texts towards a culture based upon, let's say, the visual aspect. Of course, the visual aspect is a very complex thing. It's not just images, but there is this reorientation towards the visual. And everything has to be retranslated, remediated. That's a very important word that people are going to learn and understand. And in which canonical texts will be transformed so as to still be able to tell significant stories to us. The focus, the partial focus to be true, of the course will be the remediation, the retelling, the movement of canonical texts across various media. Partial because I will be interested in the non-canonical form that texts acquire. And I'm also interested in the mediation and rewriting of non-canonical texts as well. But going back to the canonical texts that will be rewritten, reformatted, remediated, what happens to them? Of course, they are hybridized. They are hybridized with other components of popular culture, of visual culture. This is not something new. And that's what is interesting about this course. We see how, in a way, culture develops, grows. If we think of Shakespeare, yes, who plagiarized right and left, we see that this process of recoding, remediating is reiterated. This seems to be something extremely important. What Shakespeare are we going to see on YouTube? We might see the OMG Shakespeare, which is very funny. But we might also see an opera broadcast by the Metropolitan, or we might see very, very sophisticated courses, explanations, and so on and so forth. So this remediation, rewriting adopts myriad forms. And of course it is our duty to try and find our way in this maze. Adaptations, visual adaptations are ubiquitous nowadays. This is our culture. The importance of understanding the transition from the text-based culture, which is still very powerful, alive and kicking, but however, which seems to be ceding ground to the new culture, is of paramount importance. Another reason why this course should be considered as important is because it touches upon the global dimension of the phenomenon. But you might look at it from a different perspective, and that perspective would be transnational, which has less of the abrasive, nowadays hated aspect of globalization, which has brought about inequity. And what I'm particularly interested in is the negotiation between global forms of retelling culture, rewriting culture, and local negotiations. I wouldn't like this course to be a copy of the courses delivered somewhere else, in the UK, in the USA, in India. I would very much like to stimulate the negotiations with local participation, local understanding, local rewriting. And this is why, if you consider what students can take away from this course, I think that an important thing would be what a great scholar of adaptations has called deep reading. That is a reading that is aware of differences. We shall be comparing the canonical source text with various adaptations. So this kind of comparing, contrasting produces meaning, produces critical awareness, produces critical spirit. And it is this kind of deep reading that should be inducive to creative reading. I would really like to encourage students and academia alike to come up with a locally embedded creative reading of this process of rewriting stories. If you take a look at Shakespeare on Romanian Shakespeare, the attempts are rather feeble, as if we are kind of shy, as if we are kind of overpowered. We tend to copy. Well, what about us? What about our local input? And that's maybe the final takeaway.